Hello everyone, my name is Giraton and welcome to B.B.T.A. Today I will be teaching you how to play the Bakugan reboot, Bakugan Battle Planet. This video will cover the card game version and everything you need to know to get playing, as well as some of the advanced rules from the in-depth rulebook. After the rules, we will have a featured match while explaining what is going on to help familiarize you with the rules. A version of the match with the original audio will be available exclusively on Patreon for 2 weeks before I post it onto this channel. You can support us and our projects with the link in the description. With that out of the way, let's go. There are a lot of components to the Bakugan Battle Planet game. Let us familiarize ourselves with them. Bakugan toys. These are the main component of the game. Bakugan toys all roll up into a ball and trigger when their inbuilt magnet lands on a core. You will roll these onto cores as part of the game and represent the battle you are doing as part of it. Bakugan are primarily colored as the color of their faction, unless diamond, in which case they have their faction color as highlights on the Bakugan and clear plastic otherwise. They also have their base B power printed on them, however this is unimportant for the card version of the game. Character cards. One of the card types of the game and the only one with a black card back. Character cards come with their respective Bakugan toy and used to represent the stats and abilities of a Bakugan. Character cards have the following information on them: faction, name, cause, B power, damage, and sometimes an ability. Cause. These hexagons with metal inside are used to activate a Bakugan toy. They affect the stats of a Bakugan that lands on them, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively, sometimes both. There are 5 types of cores: green fist, or regular fist, red fist, or flaming fist, orange shield, or regular shield, blue shield, or magic shield, and helix. Abilities on cores can be different even between the same core type. Action cards. One of the card types, action cards provide an effect for a cost. They are discarded after use and have the following information on them: name, energy cost, faction, and ability. Action cards say action next to the faction symbol. Hero cards. One of the card types, hero cards stay in play when used and provide an effect. They have the following information on them: name, energy cost, faction, and ability. Hero cards say hero next to the faction symbol. Evo cards. One of the card types, Evo cards represent the evolutions of Bakugan, making the character cards stronger and possibly add and/or change the effects on them. You can only use Evo cards on the Bakugan they evolve from, but unlike the Pokemon TCG and their evolution mechanic, you do not need to follow stages for evolution for Bakugan. All you need for a Bakugan to evolve is to have the Evo card in your hand, the ability to pay the energy cost on the Evo card, and not already be in an Evo of higher cost, or the same Evo. Diamond Evos are the exception to this, as they can't evolve from or into any other evolution. They have all the same info on them as character cards, but also have an energy cost on them, and have an image of the base character card they evolve from. Flips. One of the card types, flips are always written sideways and stand out from all other cards. You can't play flips from hand, and instead you play them when they are revealed when you're taking damage. When a flip card is revealed, and you can pay the cost for the flip, you may pay the cost to apply its effect before any more damage is taken. Most flips stop further damage from happening that turn under certain conditions, but some do not. Flips have the following information on them: name, energy cost, faction, and ability. To play Bakugan Battle Planet, you require the following: someone to play against, 3 Bakugan per player and their associated character cards that use the black card back. The Bakugan a player uses must all be different, however they may share the same name. For example, you can't use 2 Aquos Fangzor, but you can use an Aquos Fangzor and a Ventus Fangzor. Ultra Bakugan are also considered different Bakugan from their core counterparts, as you can use an Aquos Hydorus and an Aquos Hydorus Ultra in the same team. You must also have a 40 card deck for each player, made up of cards with the red card back, all using the same factions as the Bakugan chosen by the player using the said deck. No more than 3 copies of the same card may be used together. 6 cores per player are also required. The character cards of the Bakugan chosen denote what kinds of cores you can use. For example, if your Bakugan are Aquos Fangzor, Ventus Fangzor, and Darkus Nilius, you must use 2 green fist cores, 2 red fist cores, 1 orange shield core, and 1 helix core. However, they can have any abilities on said cores and do not need to be the cores packaged with the Bakugan. As long as your cores match the number on each symbol on your character cards, you may use them. The Bakugan 40 card starter decks come with everything required for one player to play the game, without additional purchases. However, you do not require one of these sets to play, as cards come in separately sold booster packs and Bakugan are also sold separately. The goal of Bakugan Battle Planet is to deal enough damage to the opponent by winning brawls to remove every card from the opponent's deck plus 1 or more additional damage to defeat them. Once both players have prepared their decks, arrange the cards and Bakugan as imaged. This isn't a strict layout, however this is the recommended layout and is able to have all your components accessible while leaving an area for you and your opponent to roll your Bakugan and not get in the way of your opponent's cards. Character cards and the decks both starts with all cards face down. Once both players set up, decide randomly who will place the first core onto what is known as the hide matrix, the rolling area between both players. This can be done by using a core as a coin to flip, or you can roll dice, calling odds and evens, or rock, paper, scissors, etc. The player who places first now does so, choosing one of their cores and placing it directly in the middle of the roll area with equal distance from both players with the symbol side face up. The other player then does the same with one of their cores, but instead of in the middle, the core must be placed directly next to the first core with one edge fully touching another. However, it does not need to be any specific side, just as long as they touch and that it is a full side. The first player now does the same, placing a core that touches any existing core in play so that at least one side is touching an existing core's side. This repeats between the players until all cores have been placed. The last player to place a core, which will be the player that didn't place the first core, gains priority for the first turn. Priority means that player must do everything first during the turn before the opponent does. This includes choosing which Bakugan to roll and choosing a card to play or not at any time during the turn, and a few other things. It's a bit more complex than that, but we will go over a few details over the course of this video, and if you want a more in-depth look at priority, check out the official in-depth rules, link in the description. With all cores placed, both players draw 5 cards from their deck to form their hand. The hand is never revealed to the opponent unless a card says otherwise. You keep those cards hidden in your hand with only you being able to look at them until they are played. Then you begin the game. The turn functions as follows. Both players draw a card, even on the first turn. Then they may choose a card from their hand and place it face down in the indicated area on screen. That face down card is called energy, and this process is known as energizing. You use energy to pay for cards by turning the number of energy cards indicated on the energy cost of the card sideways. Once an energy card is turned sideways, it can't be used to pay for the cost of a card again until it is charged. The player with priority picks one of their closed Bakugan to roll, and the other player does the same afterwards. An open Bakugan can't be chosen to be rolled. Both players may play a card during this choice, with the player with priority choosing to do so or not first. If an opponent plays a card, the player without priority that is, The person with priority may then respond with their own cards, and so on until both players decide not to play a card. Both players roll their Bakugan towards the hide matrix from at least 2 cards length away. The Bakugan must be rolled while on the table and can't be dropped or thrown towards the matrix. If both Bakugan miss, both players re-roll. If one Bakugan opens on a core but the other does not, it is considered the victor of the turn. But if both Bakugan open on a core, a brawl begins. A Bakugan is considered open if any part of it opens after rolling over a core. If the core is not stuck to the magnet of the Bakugan, it does not gain the core, and if one or more cores are stuck to the magnet after lifting the Bakugan, it gets all of those cores and their effects. If a Bakugan has magnetized to a core but does not open, it is considered open, and you are allowed to tap it a little in an attempt to open it, as long as the core does not fall off in the process. If it does though, you consider that roll failed. A Bakugan keeps its core until it loses a brawl, or that Bakugan's team performs a team attack. A Bakugan that opens reveals its character card by flipping it face up, unless that card is already face up. If a brawl occurs, both players begin by calculating their current B power by using the B power printed on their character card for the Bakugan fighting and any equipped core bonuses on that Bakugan. Players may then play any cards from their hand that they can pay the cost for, starting with the player with priority. Once both players are done playing cards and have calculated their new B power totals, the player with the highest B power wins the brawl and is the victor for the turn. The victor of the brawl calculates their Bakugan's current damage value. If all of their Bakugan are open, they instead calculate the damage totals of all of their Bakugan together. This is known as a team attack. The attacking Bakugan's victor effects and any heroes controlled by the victor with a victor effect apply their effects now. The player who lost the brawl then flips the cards from the top of their deck to face up in the discard pile one at a time until cards are sent to the discard pile during this damage instance are equal to the total damage value, or until a flip card is revealed. If a flip card is revealed, the damaged player may pay the cost of the flip if they are able to and apply its effects. Most flips stop the damage of the specific attacking Bakugan's faction, and that is represented with a stop sign followed by the faction it stops, or in the case of stop outside of flips, the faction it doesn't stop. If a stop is played, any further damage is not taken. If a stop flip is not played when revealed, damage continues as if a flip card was not revealed. No cards can be played while taking damage. If a player takes more damage than the number of cards left in their deck, they lose the game after the last card in their deck is revealed. If a player is dealt damage while they have no cards in their deck, they lose. Note, a player cannot lose the game by playing their last card from their deck or attempting to draw while no cards are in the deck, only by being dealt damage. After a victor of the turn is declared and the damage, if any, is taken, the players are allowed to play any additional cards before the end of the turn. If there was a brawl, the losing Bakugan is closed and returns its core to the hide matrix. The owner of the Bakugan choosing how the core is returned, as long as the core is touching one full side of another core. If a team attack happened, the team attacking player must close all of their Bakugan and return the cores to the hide matrix. If neither player wants to continue playing the current turn, the turn ends. All energy cards are charged, meaning returned right way up, any effects that apply at the end of turn are applied now, and the next turn begins. The victor of the turn has priority for the next turn. All effects applied by actions end at this point. And that is the basics of how to play Bakugan Battle Planet. Before we continue on to our feature match, though, we must go over some specific rules and details about the game. For 1, Bakugan Battle Planet has 6 factions: Pyrus, Aquos, Darkus, Haos, Ventus, and Orlus. The factions on your Bakugan decide which factions of cards you can use in your deck. They each have a unique style of play, but let's go over the main types of abilities. Pyrus cards may have the Fury keyword in their abilities. which give bonuses for having no cards in hand. Aqueous cards may have the keyword Flow, which triggers for playing other cards before them. Darkest cards may have the keyword Sacrifice, which means when they are resolving their effects, you can discard a card from your hand for an additional effect. Chaos uses Domination as their keyword, and that triggers when you have more cores than equipped to your Bakugan than your opponent. And finally, Ventus gets Turbo, which triggers when you have more energy than your opponent. Aurelus is special in that it only gets evolution cards and character cards, and does not have any particular playstyle other than the fact that all of Aurelus' Bakugan are incredibly powerful to start with, and in their evolutions. There is also a special set of effects represented by symbols. The two fireballs icon is called Double Strike, which doubles specifically their damage when they attack. Shadow Strike is the S symbol with a sword through it, and stops a Bakugan's stats from being reduced. Finally, Frost Strike is the Snowflake, and makes it so that when you are dealing damage, the opponent's flipped cards cost 1 more for each point of Frost Strike the attacking Bakugan has. However, if a flip says it may be played for free because of its effect, Frost Strike does not apply, as it only affects the base energy cost of the card. Now, with that all out of the way, let's go into our feature match, where I will explain everything going on with the rules you have just learned in mind. And here we have the fight. I start off by being the one to choose to place a core first, and so I place one of my cores. My opponent then places another core to attach to that core, and then we continue until the hide matrix is complete. As you can see, we make a fairly straight line to begin with. It's rather straight, so I try to spread it out a bit to help my end, and my opponent continues to make a straight line. I'm just cutting my opponent's deck there. Cutting deck is just something you should do in terms of competitive play, however is not a required part of the rules. I draw 5 cards and then draw an additional one, and place one of my flip cards down as energy. Flip cards are really good for using as energy as you can't play them from hand. We then both picked our Bakugan, and we both opened our Bakugan, and my opponent got 2 cores. However, one of those cores was a negative damage core, which was a good benefit for me despite the fact that I was likely to lose the fight. But I also got the wrong character card, so that was a mess up from my point. This isn't the official setup. We had limited space for the table, so we simply did that, and there's me folding up my Bakugan after losing the fight and returning the core. However, my character card stays face up, as you can see. You can see most of my hand, so as the last thing in my turn, I activate a card that allows me to draw 2 and discard 2 cards. It then also goes to the discard pile. I then recharge my energy, and so does my opponent, and we draw a card to begin the next turn. I energize another card and pick my next Bakugan for rolling. As you can see, we actually do not use priority rulings as we play. As you can see, I also won that roll simply by being able to pop while my opponent couldn't. We didn't use priority rulings partially because it's a little difficult to keep track of, and also this wasn't a serious game, so we did not feel the need to. However, it can be super helpful. I didn't take any damage last turn because my opponent had no damage to deal, but as you can see, I was able to deal damage that turn. I believe it was 6 in total, so they flipped over 6 cards from the top of their deck into the discard pile. There, my opponent is playing Strata, which is a hero card at the end of their turn, in order to gain the benefit. We both draw 2 cards at the start of our turn because of that card. Ooh, we both missed that roll because our Bakugan rammed into each other and neither of them could pop, so we simply re-roll. Again, I was able to pop while my opponent could not, and thus I was able to instantly win the fight. My Nilius was quite effective at dealing damage, but in order to deal even more damage, I play Fireball, which is a 1 energy cost card to add an additional 3 damage. And so a lot of damage is flipped over, which you can see in the corner there, and then my opponent reveals the flip card Pact of Darkness. I completely forgot about which card it was. This is not scripted. Anyway, so they pay the cost and stop the damage, and then they play Garganoid Ultra as an evolution card. I didn't mention earlier, but I did evolve my Hyderus earlier, my Pyrus Hyderus Ultra. And then we roll off, and my opponent was able to flip their Bakugan face up while I could not, and their roll successfully blocked mine. And so Garganoid instantly wins. It also does not gain a benefit, I believe, from that core, but in terms of its own ability. I get a flip, but I decide to ignore it. You do not have to play flips if you reveal them. They are entirely optional. I simply take all that damage despite getting 2 flips, and that's partially because we were using the starter decks in this game and not fully built decks. So a lot of our cards were... well, a lot of my cards. My opponent was actually using a customized deck using proxy cards. However, my deck was simply just a starter deck. I play my own hero, which is Colonel Armstrong. Interesting card that when you attack, you get to draw an additional card. My opponent was able to open up their Bakugan and deal the stuff. We both used Aqua's Fangzor. It is a really, really good card. But do note you might want to mark them in some way if that is the case. You don't want to be messing up your Bakugan. Unless you don't care about the exact same Bakugan being swapped with each other. Now my opponent is performing a team attack, so we're calculating the amount of damage that is being dealt to me, including the core bonuses. So I take a lot of damage here. But I was able to get a flip and stop most of that damage. That is Repel Outsiders for Pyrus, and thus, because my opponent was not attacking with a Pyrus Bakugan, I was able to stop all the damage. And there's another hero coming onto the field, and the hide matrix is a bit of a mess. So we fix it up. Both players must accept to fix the hide matrix in order for the hide matrix to do it, so I ask about that one core, and if they want to bring it over into the rest of it. But for the most part, you do not mess with the hide matrix unless both players agree. So we uncharge and draw a card. And here I have a lot of cards in hand, but I need to be able to land on a core to use them all. As you will see in this fight, that doesn't actually turn out all that well. Yeah, I miss entirely. And my opponent is continuing to continue winning without any hinders. But I was able to get a counter and was able to stop the damage. So I place another card face down to energize. I'm mostly just trying to make sure that I can play as many cards as I can if I get into a fight. Unfortunately, my rolling is really bad. It was rather annoying to have all these cards and not having any reason to use them. I unfortunately do not have any flips left in my deck, and I lose the fight. But that is how a full game of Bakugan is played.
And that is how you play Bakugan Battle Planet. This tutorial video is quite, I want to say late, but it's actually like only a few days late in comparison, because I was going to release it after all the other unboxings, and then I had the Dragonite boxing. the Diamond Dragonoid unboxing, and so there was a lot backup, but it did mean that this was recorded, mostly edited, and all that jazz long before I've recorded this little bit to end the video off. So, if you have any additional questions, also any rule corrections, I might have made a few mistakes, so do check. I will pin any comments that do clarify the rules that I got wrong or didn't mention. I didn't mention the 5-card hand limit. Sorry, not 5-card. 7-card limit. 7-card limit. Yeah. So, if you have any additional rules that you need to add to the thing, I will pin your comments down below. Possibly in the future I might make an updated tutorial video when more rules come out, more Q&A. Maybe I might make some videos on Q&A answers and stuff, and just covering a bunch of those. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Giraton out.